Hello Earthlings, welcome to the second of this week's double album review. Yesterday's was the December's new album, I'll Be Your Girl, on which one of the songs quoted Yo La Tengo, so we're going to be examining the new Yo La Tengo album released on the same day. The name of the album is There's a Riot Going On, and there the Sly Stone allusions end. I've heard this album described as a political album, as a peaceful protest even, but because the band members' voices are so soft, as is typical of their sound, I'm not really getting any political lyrics for the most part on this album. It is a noticeable change or evolution in their style. I mean, it doesn't sound exactly like Fade, their last album of original stuff, and that in turn didn't sound like popular songs before it, etc., etc. This is also their first release to feature their longest standing lineup of Ira Kaplan, Georgia Hubley, and James McNew, after their brief reunion with Dave Schramm, who played on their first and fourth albums for their cover album Stuff Like That There a few years ago. But the trio is back again for this album. So anyway, let's get to the music. You Are Here is the first of three instrumentals on the album. It's a very typically YLT calm opener in the vein of songs like Detouring America with Horns and Return to Hot Chicken and Beach Party Tonight. I think Ira is playing his guitar with an E-bow or possibly a slow attack, which adds to the floaty atmosphere. You're going to hear me saying the words atmosphere and texture a lot. And James is playing a really high bass line, if that is a bass, and George is adding a lot of percussion to it as well. And it's a nice opener. The first real song on the album is Shades of Blue, sung by Georgia. It's got a real sort of 60s French pop feel to it, complete with the tambourine, which sounds exactly like the tambourine on Satellite off of May I Sing With Me. There's some cello that adds to the French pop feel, and it's a really nice song. Again, with some ambient background on it. She May, She Might marks the first appearance of Ira's voice on the album. The atmosphere is really strong on this one. There's a sort of circular chord progression which keeps coming back to the same place. Doesn't really go anywhere, but it doesn't really want to. There's basically one melody that Ira keeps singing with some ba-da-ba-das from Georgia in the background. It's one of the many songs on this album that builds purely texturally. Like, it doesn't build by making the melody go higher or changing the chords. It builds by just repeating and then gradually adding more instruments and getting a bit louder. It's one of many songs on this album that does that. For You Too is a much more tuneful song, again sung by Ira. I love the combination of the clean, sort of echoey chorused guitar with the distorted bass. It sort of inverts the typical rock thing of having a clean bass and a distorted guitar. And it's got a classic, beautiful chord progression, and Ira's voice blends really well with his guitar, and it's giving me a sort of krautrocky vibe like on Stupid Things from Fade. It's definitely my favorite song on the album at this point. Ashes is a slower, slightly loungy but not too much number sung by Georgia. It marks the first appearance of an upright bass on this album. It's got some unusually concrete or sharp imagery in the lyrics, like twisted branch of an aging sycamore, spider veins on its face. Track 6 is Polynesia number 1. I think this might be the first time we get two songs in a row sung by Georgia. It's got a real summer sun type vibe, but a bit more jammy. It pretty much otherwise sounds like your typical Yo La Tengo mellow Georgia vocal song about going to Polynesia. Dream Dream Away is 2 parts instrumental, 1 part James vocal feature. It starts off with an acoustic guitar strumming some chords in an open tuning. I think it might be a 12-string. It sounds a lot like the Fireside from Popular Songs. Maybe even a bit like Flagstaff by Atlas Sound. Well, especially like that when the guitar is seemingly done strumming, and then it sort of gets reversed and processed until it just becomes this haze. And then over this haze, the forward guitar comes in again, this time with James singing, and I think some bass to support it. And it's another one of those songs that builds exclusively by texture. Track 8 is Shortwave, and if you told me that this was a B-side from Let the Blind Lead Those Who Can See But Cannot Feel by Atlas Sound, I would believe you. This is one of those songs where nearly nothing happens. It's this amorphous mass of synths, radio samples, some distant guitar, bowed bass, and a voice that could maybe be Georgia or maybe James in the distant background, not really singing any words. So I guess that makes this the second instrumental of the album. And if you're listening to this album expecting to hear a bunch of songs, then this track is probably a minute too long for you. But if you're trying to meditate, this track is a really good idea for some background music. Above the Sound is in the same key as She May, She Might. It's got the same suspended chord, but there's way more emphasis on the drums and the bass. There are no vocals for about the first 3 minutes, and when they come in, they're very mantra-like. They repeat the title quite a few times. Track 10 is the first song in a long time, it seems, on this album. Let's Do It Wrong. It's a nice little vibraphone-laden bossa. It would fit right in on And Then Nothing Turned Itself Inside Out or Summer Sun. I love the concept of deliberately doing something wrong, so I can't fault it for that. What Chance Have I Got is another Georgia vocal. There's some nice high oohs from James, which kind of give it a Today's the Day vibe. The version on Summer Sun, not the rockier version on the EP. And there's some nice, almost the Smiths' How Soon Is Now type tremolo guitar from Ira in the background, again adding to the atmosphere. I guess you could possibly interpret the lyrics in a political way, but they seem more pessimistic than political, if anything. Track 12 is called Esportes Casual. That's my attempt at a Brazilian accent. Anyway, Esportes Casual is some much needed levity after these 11 really heavy, atmospheric tracks. It's the last instrumental of the album. It's an upbeat little organ ditty. Makes you want to do this. It reminds me a heck of a lot of Center of Gravity off of I Can Hear the Heart Beating as One. But nothing lasts forever, and that little Americanized samba is the shortest track on the album. We plunge back into the haze on Forever, another really floaty track where Ira's voice is pretty much only supported by James's bass ostinato thing and the shoo-wop backing vocals. This might be another lyric which comes close to being political, although it's more about time than politics, how tomorrow is forever, the end of history illusion. Track 14, Out of the Pool, is pretty funky by YLT standards. Certainly by the standards of this album. James and Georgia provide a really solid rhythmic foundation for Ira to first whisper over and then make some guitar noises over. And track 15 is Here You Are, an inversion of the first track's name, You Are Here. It again has this foundation of the bass and drums, this time acoustic. That was an electric bass on Out of the Pool. More ambient drone atmospherics over which the whole band is singing in harmony now. And it's a fitting closer, and I really like the sort of sloppy swing that comes from the fact that Georgia is playing straight eighths on the ride, but the other instruments are swinging the eighths over her. So you get this sort of friction that makes it kind of loose. So all in all, I don't think this is their best album, but it's definitely an important addition to their catalog. Well, because they're taking a slightly bold move late in their career to make an official studio album of original material that goes light on the songs and heavy on the sort of ambient, droney atmospheres I've been talking about a lot. If you're looking for an album of songs, I would go elsewhere in their discography, go to popular songs, go to I Am Not Afraid of You and I Will Beat Your Ass, go to I Can Hear the Heart Beating as One, go to Summer Sun, go to And Then Nothing Turned Itself Inside Out, go to some other of their albums. You get the picture. But I definitely like that they've sort of deliberately made their songs dronier than usual. Again, if you're a big fan of Yola Tengo and Meditation, this is the album for you. Along with the Sounds of Science, that instrumental soundtrack album that they did. So again, it is a good album and an important album in their canon. Not necessarily their best, but it matters. Anyway, those are my opinions. I am dying to hear yours. Leave them in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe if you like what you see. Ring the bell if you really, really, really love what you see. I make videos every Tuesday. Also check out the review I did yesterday of the December's album. But until Tuesday, this is Neutron signing off. Go forth and be awesome.